Hello and welcome to TCS Student News. I'm your host Vernon Laumann, here with my co-host
Donavin Hooper.
Let's get right into the news. On Monday, President Trump had his first visit to the United Nations since taking office, with a polite but firm call for a 72-year-old institution to rebuild itself. Mr. Trump said the United Nations has grown too bureaucratic and ineffective and should change its approach. He stated that the U.S. is spending too much money and other countries are not contributing their fair share. But even with all that investment from the U.S., President Trump feels that the results just aren't there. Reformation in President Trump's eyes include all nations having equal shares and roles in the UN. On Tuesday, President Trump spoke at the General Assembly. World leaders were speechless, barely reacting to his remarks about their countries. It was the first time Trump spoke to UN leaders as president. In his 41-minute address, Trump vowed to totally destroy North Korea if the U.S. and its allies were forced to defend themselves. He continued with, "Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime. And the United States is willing, able, but hopefully this will not be necessary. That's what the United Nations is all about. That's what the United Nations is for. Let's see how they do." Trump then took on the government of Iran, saying it was a corrupt dictatorship hiding behind a democracy. As the U.S. president criticized the country's leadership, television's cameras filmed as a member of the Iranian delegation played with a cell phone, then slipped on eyeglasses. The delegate listened and focused on Trump as he described the Iran deal. He stated that it was the worst and most one-sided transaction the United States has ever entered into. The delegate's shocked reaction was shared by other members. He also targeted members of the Venezuelan delegation. They sat with their arms crossed as Trump described their country's leadership under President Nicolas Maduro as a corrupt regime that has destroyed a prosperous nation by ideology that has produced poverty and misery everywhere it has been tried. Following the speech, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tweeted that he had never heard a bolder and more courageous speech in his time at the U.S.
Next up on the list, hurricanes. We've heard a lot about hurricanes in the last couple weeks, but there is more to come. Late Monday morning, only a day after reaching hurricane force, Maria became the fourth major storm to form within the Atlantic region in 2017. It started off having sustained winds of 125 miles per hour. It has gradually risen to 155 miles per hour in the last couple days. Hurricane warnings were issued across the Leeward Islands, including the U.S. Virgin Islands, where relief work to recover from Irma is just beginning. Maria hit Puerto Rico on Wednesday as a Category 5 hurricane. Around 11,000 people were reported to have gone to shelters. This hurricane left 18 dead and knocked out power for around 3.5 million people in Puerto Rico.
U.S. troops were present when Russian warplanes bombed U.S.-backed anti-ISIS fighters in Syria. Two U.S. officials shared how close the two countries came to a major international incident. A team of U.S. Special Operations Forces were advising U.S.-backed Syrian Democratic Forces when the bomb struck just a couple of miles from where the Special Forces were located. The U.S. troops provided medical care to members of the Syrian Democratic Forces that were wounded in the airstrike. Having Russia, Syria's regime, U.S. and U.S.-backed fighters operating in extremely close proximity in eastern Syria is extremely dangerous, officials said. Both sides are communicating their plans to one another, but officials have stated that this bombing was not communicated. U.S. officials were working with Russia to de-escalate the tensions between the two countries and possibly work towards some type of agreement, but this incident put doubt on their effectiveness.
The opiate epidemic is driving down life expectancy in the U.S. from 1970 to 2000. Life expectancy in the U.S. rose by about 2.5 months every year. Now, since 2000 to 2015, the increase has only been 76.8 years to 78.8 years. It has only rose by 2 years. This is part because deaths from opioid overdoses have more than tripled in the same time. Deaths from drug overdoses have skyrocketed. More than 52,000 people died of overdoses in 2015 alone. This number could have been higher, but 25% of the overdoses are not even recorded as overdoses. Donald Trump said he was going to declare an opioid crisis a national emergency, which would unlock funds and resources to help states deal with the epidemic. The administration has yet to file the paperwork.
Now for some TCS news. Music, everyone loves it, and we had the privilege to meet Mr. Tom's nephew, CT. CT is a producer of rap and even rapped himself for a period of time. He talked to us about his life struggles and things that he had to endure during his teen and young adult life. We are so grateful to have speakers like CT. They inspire us to follow our dreams and to never believe that something is impossible.
On Wednesday, Miss Peg and Miss Angel came into the school and provided free eye and hearing exams for the whole school. Thank you from everyone here at TCS.
Last but not least, thanks to all the people who bring in food this week, and for all the people and sponsors who filled up for the month of October.
That includes this week's edition of TCS Student News. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.